Let's explore the second reasoning, Mr. Phiri, and that is that the Zuma lawyers are saying the summonses that have been served on the former president to appear before the commission, we know it's not one, I think it's actually two, if the number I have it correct. They're saying that these are irregular. On what basis?
From what I understand from their letter, they're saying the summons is irregular for not conforming to the order of the Constitutional Court. So it's not necessarily that the summons doesn't meet the requirements for a summons under the Commissions Act, but because there was an order number 4, that the Constitutional Court made, that the summons doesn't meet that muster, right? And for me, this just appears to be a bit of legalese. That is, we are being sort of smokes and mirrors that we are being subjected to, because as Advocate Pretorius properly put it, if there is a problem with the summons, you approach the commission and you articulate that it's going to be set aside, because it is valid until it's set aside. You can't just ignore a summons.
And that's why he uses the words, it is not for the Zuma lawyers to decide whether the summonses are legal or irregular.
Yes, absolutely. Because, I mean, if you can imagine, if you received a summons, Chloe, and you decided that you're not going to appear at whatever court you called to, that would be chaotic, right? But you do have the legal recourse to set aside the summons so that you have a legal excuse for not appearing at whatever judicial or legal proceedings you're being called to.
Then there are statements that have been issued by the foundation of the former president, and there is also even a personal statement that is issued on the 1st of February. This is now the commission chairperson, Raymond Zondo, who makes reference to these to paint what he calls a behavioral pattern that is consistent with what Zuma has sought to do to this commission, for lack of a better wording around this. But basically, the attitude of the former president towards the commission is consistent with what he has done, starting from November 19, when he walked off the commission without the permission of Raymond Zondo, as he put it. In your view, why is it important for the Deputy Chief Justice to mention these? And he actually goes to specific terms of what the former president has said in these statements, and that is that he is prepared to go to prison.
In my view, I think, we should not be distracted by the red herring, because what we have is a letter from a law firm which sets out various grounds for the former president not being at the commission today, and seeks to legitimize and clothe his actions of defiance with legalese effectively. And I think what the Deputy Chief Justice was doing today was to say, let's not get distracted by this letter. We have a pattern of conduct throughout the course of this commission that very clearly puts the former president's intentions around participating in this commission and cooperating with this commission. So this letter cannot just be seen on its own, because he said it in his own words that he won't participate. The foundation said it as well, and his actions as well, and his lawyers' actions as well. So let's not get distracted by this one letter that we've seen this morning at the nth hour before we begin proceedings.
And I suppose then this is why Paul Pretorius at some point goes to the extent of saying, well, you juxtapose the language of Mr. Zuma in the statements and letters that have been written versus the language that is being used by the lawyers, where he says it's crouched in courteous language. What are they seeking to make us, the public, understand?
Yeah, and I mean, the last line of that statement said, our client is not, this should not be viewed as non-cooperation in any way, right? And I think that's really where this letter is intended to be. But, the commission is alive to what is happening, because there is a pattern of conduct that they can point to, which I think in this particular instance holds a lot more weight and credence than a letter that was delivered shortly before the commencement of proceedings today.
Benedict, I'm going to ask us to pause there for a moment because we are going to take you to Ngandla now. That's where we understand there's lots of activity happening outside the home of the former president, and those pictures you're about to see them in a moment. Bonga Dlulane is our reporter in Ngandla. Bonga, a very good morning to you. Tell us exactly what is happening there, and has there been any sort of reaction to what is unfolding inside the State Capture Commission of Inquiry?
Well, Xoli, for now, you can see that's behind me. There's some sort of demonstration from the MKMVA cadres that call themselves who are here, that are just doing some sort of parade in the fact that the president has announced that former president rather is not going to the commission. So this is them keeping themselves a bit busy. Also, this is them showing how they're celebrating the fact that what they're calling is that the president is not going to go, former president, to the commission. And this is them showing their defiance, also showing how they're reacting to the news. That's the situation here. He also did speak to Mr. Zuma, Edward Zuma, off air, basically saying that they're going to respond to the commission, particularly evidence leader, Mr. Pistorius, particularly what he's saying now is evidence about giving the commission as to how they're reacting to Mr. former President Jacob Zuma saying that he's not going to commission. So he's saying that the evidence leader, those are his words, is being disrespectful at the same time, that they don't believe that he understands the kind of pressure and also the kind of respect Mr. Zuma has for the law, but they're also saying that also at their own time they will furnish their reasons as to exactly why they support him. So Mr. Edward Zuma was just very emphatic about that again while we're chatting off air, that it's not that the president does not respect the rule of law, just that the president does not recognize what they want the commission to come and give evidence for now, because he has still got applications in the court, and that the fact that the Constitutional Court has ordered him to appear before the commission is not something they're going to entertain now, because other issues have still to be heard before the court. So what you're seeing, Ole, is that's happening right now, and that's basically what the demonstrations here is the members of MKMVA celebrating in that defiance.
Yeah, Bonga, apart from the members of the MKMVA who are demonstrating just behind you there, is there community support for the former president? Are there any members of the community that are showing up there to say we support what the former president is doing, or is there quiet, people basically sitting in their homes not wanting to be a part of what is going on?
I don't know if you could tell, Colin, that in that demonstration it's not only members of the MKMVA, it's also ordinary members, women and also young people who are part of this, also saying they support former President Jacob Zuma. They see the whole situation as being engineered by certain parts of the ANC. They won't go on and say as much as that the president now in charge of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa, is behind it, but they do suggest that there's a vendetta against the former president, that they're saying that it's always been going on, particularly now, and that they're using this Zondo Commission as a way of trying to get to them. I'm just going to ask also my colleague, Pilani, just to pair next to me, just to show you also that there's also stands here, Xoli, selling ANC paraphernalia, basically. So you can see that it's not only people who are here to make sure that they show their support for ANC, but also people who are trying to also promote the ANC, because everything that's here is ANC's slogan. So it's not only former members of MKMVA, the community, and also people are seeing an opportunity here to say that, you know what, we can also make a bit of business and sell some ANC slogan T-shirts and caps, and you know what. And also behind us is also a tent where they're saying they're going to be here for another 5 days. We just saw also that the lunch was served, so that because they're prepared for this, Xoli. So all this support is not only for today. They're saying that they've also booked nearby accommodation somewhere close, so that they want the people to know that they are serious when they're saying that from here today until Friday, their support is going to be that ironclad. And whether or not the cause of the Hawks or SAPs come to try and arrest the former president, they are going to lay their bodies here on the road to ensure that they prevent that. And you heard earlier on Edward Zuma saying that if there are people trying to arrest former President Jacob Zuma, he's going to put locksmith on the gate that's going to prevent him from going inside. So clearly, the support goes from young and old, ANC or not, MKMVA or not, but people are saying that they're here because they believe that former President Jacob Zuma's rights are being violated and they're going to protect him.
All right, Bongadlane, thank you very much for the time being. Well, before I come back to my guest in studio, Benedict Phiri, let's also touch base with our senior politics reporter, Ziyanda Ngcobo, who is at the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. Ziyanda, let's throw forward, if we can. So today, Paul Pretorius is going through this detail, important detail, and Benedict is going to illuminate why this is important for the Commission to do. But from your endpoint, do you have any knowledge thus far of what the plan is for the Commission going into the week? Because this week had been set aside for the former president to appear.
Well, Xoli, at this stage, it's not really clear, and I suspect it's because Paul Pretorius is going to conclude then the details of what it is then that they were planning to question the former president on, and thereafter the chairperson of the commission, Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, will indicate the course of action of the commission in relation to the legalities surrounding former President Jacob Zuma's non-appearance here today. Paul Pretorius being quite careful to not treading carefully rather, so as to not move into that space as to what the chairperson should do or what action he should take on behalf of the commission against the former president. His role right now is to just outline, the issues that they wanted to deal with, saying that there are at least 40 witnesses that have implicated the former president, and really touching on the fact that there's been a lot of noise and discussion around the commission's work, but the mandate then of this particular commission must be fulfilled, and that is really then to unpack what state capture is. And in doing so, then there are many questions that former President Jacob Zuma needed to have answered for them to be able to fulfill this particular mandate and complete that report.
Yeah, Ziyanda Ngcobo, let's leave it there for the time being, because the time is racing ahead and I suspect the commission will resume at some point. Let me quickly canvass this very detailed information that is being led by Paul Pretorius. Basically, the legal team taking the country, if you like, through what they would have asked the former president, what it is that he needed to answer to. But right at the beginning, Paul Pretorius saying there's no doubt that the commission, the words he uses is that it's been deprived of the opportunity to question the former president, Zuma. His evidence, he says there's no doubt that it is relevant. He has been implicated by 40 witnesses thus far. And it's important to also note that the former president was not just a bystander in his executive, he chaired cabinet. So most of the decisions that were taken, he would have been well aware of. Why is it important for Paul Pretorius to take us through all of this detail?
Right. I think it's important from a number of perspectives. One, we speak about the constitutional duty of the former president, to be at this commission. Two, there's a legal duty that sits on him. But I think most importantly is that there's a public duty that he has to account. And what Advocate Pretorius has actually established is that the evidence that has been presented through the course of the state capture inquiry is such that it looks like there's a design around people in cabinet being appointed, that filtering through to SOEs and different departments, and that filtering through to monies being used either corruptly or irregularly.
Cash used, irretraceable cash,
exactly,
to keep that network going.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think as a former president, if you look at that chain from where it starts, from cabinet all the way through to state-owned entities and different government departments, and then, the filtering of the resources, there is an answer that the former president owes us as the public of South Africa
Yeah.
that he actually should account for. And I think this is why Advocate Pretorius is saying that we're not playing legal games.
Yeah.
We're actually playing a situation, we're actually in a situation where the public needs to be accounted for by the former president.